One thing we didn't like about Thor: Love and Thunder was the CGI. Some people thought this problem was because the movie relies heavily on the volume, the filming technology used for The Mandalorian. Others said that it could be because the studio had a tight turnaround time for VFX artists. In this video, we'll talk about how Disney's now changed the CGI behind the project. First off, Disney updated the CGI. Thor 4 director Taika Waititi and Tessa Thompson, who plays Valkyrie, have made fun of these problems in the past, showing that they're aware of the criticisms. Now that the movie starring Chris Hemsworth is being shown for the first time on Disney+, one Marvel fan discovered that the studio made a big change to the CGI. A Twitter user named @ComicXBook found that Disney+ updated the CGI in a critical scene from the movie. It's the scene with Axel, who used to be known as Astrid, being Heimdall's son. He tells Thor and Valkyrie that Gorr took him and the other Asgardian children to the Shadow Realm. The user said it looks even worse, and many other people seemed to agree. We've complained about Marvel Studios' CGI a lot, so it makes sense they do something like this. Up next, what's changed in the CGI? At a closer look, Axel's floating head in the scene seems sharper in the updated version than in the theatrical cut. Axel's head also has glowing beams, and the whole image has a noticeable effect called chromatic aberration. This wouldn't be the first time Marvel Studios changed one of its projects on Disney+, whether on purpose or by accident. For example, WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier both had minor changes made to them. Some viewers still support the update based on the screenshots above. Some people have thought that Heimdall's son is still learning to use his powers, which could explain why Axel's floating head doesn't look like much. Followed by more plans to update past projects. This major visual update now sets an exciting precedent. Could major updates be made to MCU projects after they come out to fix visual problems? WandaVision showed that Marvel was willing to make even small changes to its projects, so it's possible that similar things could happen with other movies and TV shows. Visually, Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk have gotten a lot of criticism, so Marvel Studios could use Disney+ to fix their mistakes, but some things can't be fixed. Many people said that the updated CGI didn't make the scene better, mostly because it looked terrible in motion. In the end, this move could be seen as a band-aid for the studio, but that doesn't change the fact that there are already many complaints. Marvel Studios is already taking the steps it needs to fix the VFX problem as a whole. A previous report said the work would be split up in a more logical way in the future. Moving on to the explanation behind the bad CGI for Thor. The movie used volume, a new technology first used in The Mandalorian and becoming more common in Disney movies. The volume, which ILM made, is much like a replacement for green screen. Actors perform in front of a vast, curved LED screen that shows photorealistic backdrops. This is good for a studio because they don't have to film on location as much. And it could save money because CG animators don't tend to be unionized like traditional set designers. Actors have also said that it improves their performances because they don't have to make up an environment. Instead, they can look behind them and react to whatever they see. Chris Hemsworth said that he especially liked shooting scenes in Omnipotence City, the home of the gods, because he could enjoy the design. It should, in theory, mean that every movie or TV show's as good as The Mandalorian. Because it's a new technology, directors and cinematographers must learn how to use it. The volume encourages the making of scenes where people stand in a small area with a fancy background behind them, but don't interact with it at all. Also, since people seem to be paying more attention to the background, they seem to be paying less attention to traditional lighting techniques. This means that things slip, and the differences in quality become clear. Last but not least, the impact of the pandemic. The pandemic certainly made things worse here. To make the movie, Marvel set up a tight-knit bubble community. That's why the star's kids are in the movie. Their appearances weren't just cool Thor: Love and Thunder Easter eggs. They were a way to limit the number of families inside the bubble. This could have led to too much reliance on the volume, which was used instead of filming on location at a time when it was hard to get around. The volume was a surefire way to show large crowds without actually bringing people together. It's possible that some of the problems with Thor: Love and Thunder could have been fixed if less of the movie had been filmed with the volume. Finally, Marvel's CGI problem. Visual effects artists rarely get the credit they deserve, both in the entertainment industry and among those who work for Marvel Studios. Think about how VFX is used in movies like Avengers: Infinity War, which was the 5th highest grossing movie of all time and came out in 2018. Industrial Light and Magic, a VFX company, says that only 80 of the more than 2,700 shots in Infinity War didn't have any visual effects. That means that visual effects were used for less than 3% of the 2.5-hour movie. CGI has gotten so good because technology has changed so quickly that it's easy for people to take it for granted, and it's even easier for it to be distracting when it doesn't look real, like when an unreal Egyptian jackal pops out of the ground in Moon Knight, or when villains turn into cartoonish skeletons in Ms. Marvel. Let's not forget when Doctor Strange gets a third eye in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and the whole She-Hulk Attorney at Law trailer. Now for some other related news you might have missed out on, starting with the sequel for Hocus Pocus on Disney+. Hocus Pocus 2, the follow-up to the 1993 box office bomb, comes out in October, right in time for spooky season. Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker are back as the Sanderson sisters, three witches who were kicked out of Salem but kept coming back to cause trouble until morning. Roger Ebert gave the first movie only 1 star and a thumbs down in his review, but the sequel's supposed to be better and shows why Disney has become the most successful entertainment company. Say that the first movie didn't do too well would be kind. The first movie was directed by Kenny Ortega, who was the driving force behind Disney's hit High School Musical series. It came out in the summer when most movies for kids came out, so the movie about Halloween came out in the middle of July. But like many follow-ups to fan-favorite movies, Hocus Pocus 2 is stuck between different times, audiences, and tones. It tries to do a lot but ends up doing very little. It's more like a remake in terms of how it's put together, as it tries to please both old fans and new ones. This isn't an impossible task, but the movie has a hard time doing it, with the broomstick barely getting off the ground. It sometimes feels more like an extended, joke-free SNL skit than a real movie. It has the icons we want, but none of the soul, drive, or bare necessity we need to go with them. It's something that exists because it could, not because it should. Let's talk about Christian Bale hoping to join Star Wars. Christian Bale's recent role as Gore the God Butcher in Thor: Love and Thunder won him new fans, but there's one role in another franchise that he'd be open to if it would make the kid in him happy. People who had seen Star Wars too many times knew about the scene where the stormtrooper hits his head on the door as he comes through, and it turns out that this is the role he'd rather play in a movie. We've been wondering for years what the helmet-knocking stormtrooper is. In 2009, a fan documentary was made to determine who the extra was. Lastly, Elisa Bowen's the new president of Disney+. Elisa Bowen's now president of Disney+. This is a big promotion for the executive, who's been in charge of global business operation for Disney's streaming platforms, including Disney+, since its launch in 2019. She was most recently the EVP of Global Business Operations for Disney Streaming. In this role, she was in charge of the company's direct-to-consumer video streaming business, such as Disney+ and other platforms. Mainly, she was in charge of how their content and business operations were run worldwide. She also led the global launch of Disney+ in 154 markets. Her new position starts right away. Bowen will still report to Michael Paul, the direct-to-consumer president for Disney Media Entertainment and Distribution. Paul was the executive who was in charge of Disney+ before. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of the updated CGI in the movie? Do you think Disney did a good job at addressing the problem? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.